Hey YouTube.
Hi.
Okay, I don't know about you guys, but I'm sick of atheists diminishing Christian intellect.
By disproving century-old theories and stories with evidence to the contrary?
There's this notion that atheism and science rely on evidence, whereas religion relies on blind faith.
Yeah. Religion pretty much does. Religion began as text written down by people thousands of years ago. The Dead Sea Scrolls date to about 200 BC, and then it was carried on through word of mouth or different versions of that text, which are skewed or mistranslated. That's why there's different versions of the same New Testament, and that's also why there have been so many disputes about the text, historically the Reformation and Erasmus's revision of the Vulgate. If there was a hard, documented example of a god that could be backed up, there wouldn't be any dispute. For example, we know that civilization started in the Fertile Crescent in Mesopotamia approximately 6,000 to 7,000 years ago. Why? Because we have hard evidence, artifacts and such, that prove that claim. Sure, there have been disputes about different scientific findings in the past, but these are resolved through the introduction of new evidence. A great example of this is Pasteur's gooseneck flask experiment that disproved spontaneous generation. Look it up if you're interested.
Two things are wrong about that assertion. Number one, there's an incredible amount of evidence behind any major religion, particularly Christianity.
Such as... Yeah, thought so. Like I said before, religious texts have been disputed for centuries and are still disputed to this day. You have no universal, irrefutable, or indisputable proof that your God actually exists.
Number two, science has requires, and will require faith.
No. The scientific method has no faith required at any point. Francis Bacon and René Descartes were the key developers of the modern scientific method as it is known today. Bacon's way was inductive reasoning. This meant that you have a claim, you gather evidence to support this claim, and if the evidence doesn't match up, you change your statement and you try again. You modify the statement to fit the evidence, basically. For Descartes, there was deductive reasoning, meaning that nothing in the world was true until it was proven true through sensing it. This is the origin of the phrase, I think, therefore I am. I'm thinking, therefore I know that I am real. For example, I can knock on a table and I know that the table is real because I can feel it. These methods, both inductive and deductive, were combined and refined by Newton later on in history, but that's beside the point.
Many advances made in science happened because some of the greatest minds in history employed faith to pursue those frontiers.
It wasn't faith, they were testing assertions made through observation. That's science.
Furthermore, science requires faith because assumptions are made all the time, and they're usually assumptions that scientists can't prove.
This is true. We do make assumptions. The difference is that we test them and make changes if our statement is proven false. And if we don't prove it on the first go, we keep on gathering data until we can make a conclusion, even if that conclusion is different than our original statement.
For instance, we assume that we can generalize future laws based on past laws. But what would happen if we woke up tomorrow and gravity wasn't working or the Earth suddenly reversed orbit? Science would be screwed if the laws of physics were suddenly different. And what if the laws of physics are different in different galaxies? If so, who's to say that they one day won't change in ours?
Well, to start off, we would be dead. But getting to your point, we have sufficient evidence to assume that the laws of physics as we know them would not suddenly turn off or change at the drop of a hat. There has never been an example in the history of the universe, 13.6 billion years of it, of something's orbit changing or gravity being turned off, and we have the mathematics to prove that these events are impossible. The only example of the laws of physics not working as they should be are black holes, but scientists around the world are still working to find out why through experimentation and observation. We don't just sit back and say, oh, here's something different, time to throw in the towel. We work to find out why these things function as they do and modify our theories and laws to accommodate the new evidence.
The reality is that there's a lot that science doesn't know and can't answer, even beyond the argument of creation. For example, science can't tell you the difference between good and evil.
Morality is a subjective term. I can concede that science can't provide an objective definition of what is right and what is wrong, but in reality there isn't one.
Science can't tell us that rape is wrong. Sure, we accept that as a value judgment, but science can only tell us what's observable and testable.
Everybody's moral compass is their own, and some people don't have one at all, but we need to have the free-thinking ability as people to establish this for ourselves. I would go into detail on the trolley problem by Philippa Foot as an example, but I'll just link it below. Again, check it out if you're interested.
Even then, a degree of faith and assumption making is required.
Lol.
That's what pisses me off, because atheists basically claim that believing in a flying spaghetti monster is as ridiculous as believing in Jesus because both require faith. Let's take a look at some YouTubers.
People is asking me to prove to them that there's no God, which is an impossible thing to ask for somebody to do because it's impossible to disprove a negative.
No, I don't think I could prove to you that God doesn't exist, just like I couldn't prove to you there's a flying pink unicorn in this room right now.
I can't prove to you that there's no fairies. I can't prove to you that there's not a flying spaghetti monster.
Just like I couldn't prove there's a flying spaghetti monster out there.
A flying spaghetti monster.
They are pretty much the same thing, and that's why the Church of the Flying Spaghetti Monster was established in the first place, to show that one god, quote, is no different than another, such as a flying monster made of Italian food is no different than an ethereal sky daddy who apparently loves anyone and everyone, yet punishes them into an afterlife of hell if they don't worship him. And here we see the old burden of proof argument. We don't have the burden of proof, you do. And that's what these YouTubers were saying. For example, I can tell you that I have the ability to read minds, but you would respond with, what am I thinking right now? And I would shoot back, you can't prove that I'm unable to read minds. In that case, the burden of proof falls on me because I'm the one making the claim. Now replace I can read minds with, there is a God. Atheists don't claim that there isn't a God, we just decline to believe in one. Christians, Muslims, and most every other religion claims that there is a God, therefore they must prove their claim correct. And once again, you have no indisputable evidence of your God existing.
There are more available manuscripts of scripture than there are other historic and ancient texts that atheists have no problem believing. My point is that atheists are hypocritical and really dumb when they mock faith because faith is needed in science as well. But
Skeptic, I need some rights to the Irony Police clip. Can you get back to me? Email's in the description.
The hills fill my heart with the sound of music. My heart wants to sing every